What's going on, y'all? We are 8 Cubes. I'm KMBest. He's Lambie Series. You're watching this one on his channel, so I would hope that you know who he is. And I would hope that you know what he's famous for as a Thanos gamer. You can tell from the first topic on the screen that Thanos has fallen from his perch of grace, going from inevitable to extremely evitable. If anyone corrects how that works, if anyone corrects that grammar, you're getting banned. And Lambie, tell us how evitable Thanos is right now.
It's so crazy, right? It's so crazy. Like, literally one change gave it its severe fall from grace. Because Thanos has been like the nerf dodger for like months. Like, they did so much to it, and it's still tier 1, tier 0.5, best deck in the format, blah, blah, blah. But now the new change whereby Thanos starts in your opening hand, like, just hurts it so badly. Like, okay, let me break it down for you, because I'm so sad. At the same time, I guess it's definitely it's definitely needed, but I'm so sad. But like, okay, so basically what Thanos starting in your hand is just means that it's a Quicksilver, which means it's not like Agatha where it's an extra draw. It's actually part of your starting original amount of cards. And it's even worse than Quicksilver because Quicksilver is a 1/2. You actually play the card. Thanos is sitting in your hand for like 5 to 6 turns, and it's definitely gonna be there every game. So that's -1 draw of anything. -1 draw of your 1-cost card, -1 draw of your 2-cost card, -1 draw of Hope Summers or whatever. Like, it's just one thing that you never want to see, but now it's always there. I think the biggest one is because like there's one less draw for a stone now. And in an 18 card deck, one less draw for a card that definitely thins your deck is really bad, right? And you are stuck with one that's unplayable. So like people can be like, oh, Thanos still playable. It's playable, but it's very cope because like you literally 100% of the time have worse draws than it used to be. It's 100% of the time your deck is worse than last time in terms of opening hand consistency. And I didn't even really mention much about the time stone because like, let's be real here, like I feel like if the time stone had this effect but Thanos didn't start in your hand, it's still fine. But okay, of course now time stone is horrible because yeah, you want to play it to draw a card, but playing it to draw a card and reduce Thanos only matters if you draw it or play it on turn 4. So it's a very restrictive card right now. It's literally 1 energy, draw 1 like 99.9% of the time. So yeah, I don't know, man. KM, do you have anything else to add other than Thanos is
tons.
bad?
I have tons to talk about here. There's layers to this, right? Okay, so layer number 1 is everyone ran America Chavez and Thanos, right? It was just a very obviously good card. It was a very obviously good card because it made you marginally more likely to draw those stones in your opening hand. And Thanos starting in your opening hand is reverse America Chavez. You are less likely to draw those stones in your opening hand. But it's also even worse than that because the card itself is not a card you can play, right? Like it's like even if you didn't get all your stones in hand with America Chavez, like maybe you have a Jeff or something. You don't have that. That's a 6/10. It's just there, right? Yes. And so like Thanos, the weird funny thing about Thanos is when you are able to go like, you know, stone into Mind Stone, pop off normally, it feels the same. It feels the same. When you do it, you're just less likely to do everything good. Like, marginally less likely to do everything good in your entire deck. And that is just they crushed it. Like, they knocked this out of the park. This is a 500-foot home run. I cannot think of another change that deals with Thanos in a meaningful way like this. Like, I have not seen any suggestion from the community, including you, including me, that is better than this. This is an actual fix to a card in a way that makes it more flavorful and gives them room to make the deck more about Thanos now, right? Like, yes, the Time Stone super sucks, but it gives them room to make the deck more flavorful, more about Thanos. And I'm just shocked that it seems to have really worked. Like, I went on Untapped earlier. I was like, there's a Thanos deck there. 55% win rate. Negative 0.4 cube rate. And it's like, that's where we are now. Like, it's
only been 6 hours since recording this anyway.
Yes.
That's
it's been
crazy.
It's very early. Obviously, the numbers are up. But just like, if that's the kind of profile you can give Thanos, I'm very happy with how they did it. Now let's talk about probably, like, the more I play with her, again, the more I'm reminded that she's probably my favorite card in the game. Like, just what she lets you do is so good. Of course, I'm talking about Angela, who is back. And I gotta tell you, like, God, I love her. I love early scalers that come down on 2. I love her so much. My queen has returned. She is now a 2/0 that gets +2 for each card you play on her. I was already playing Loki with Hope Summers and Elsa Bloodstone and Kitty Pryde and Jeff and all of that. So it was just like, oh, very easy slot in. Okay, we got the Angela in there now. It's awesome and the deck is great. But also she is re-enabling Silky Smooth decks, which, by the way, they specifically shouted out in the notes as Silky Smooth. Do you feel happy about that? Like, isn't that cool?
That's good. That's gonna be something I'm gonna address later.
Notes. It's so sick. It's re-enabling Silky Smooth decks. I've seen people. It's like just a generic good cards card now as well. You don't have to be all Elsa Hopi to make this card good. It's just gonna be good a lot of spaces as long as you're playing either Kitty or Jeff. You're just gonna be fine. And that is just like, she goes in bounce decks. There's so much that this card brings back to the table. And I think the most important thing for me is she gives small cards a way to compete with the big ones. Like, this is now a card that can reasonably be as big as a Red Hulk. Straight up, it can. It probably won't be if you miss any energy, but if you don't miss any energy, this will be as big as a Red Hulk.
Yo, Angela is just like literally my bae. Like, it's like my top 5 cards. Before she got nerfed, she was easily always in my top 5 cards as well. Like, now that she's back, like you mentioned, she enables so much like low stat strategies, right? Like Kitty becomes better, Nightcrawler becomes better, Jeff becomes better, Elsa obviously becomes better. Like all these like little guys that we used to play, now we can play them again because we have one other hard carry in the Angela. And one thing about Angela once again is that she's a 2/8. I talk to people about her as a 2/8 because 2/10 gets shanked, but
right,
yeah, you don't need it more than 2/8. You spend 2 energy, you get 8 power. It's crazy. And well, there's a lot of other synergies with her as well. I think the card in general fits in so many decks right now. Like when I was streaming a bit earlier, every single one of my decks had the trifecta, which is like Angela, Elsa, and Hope. Like it just all works together perfectly, right? They are like the early game trifecta of like not overpowerness, like just power. So I think I'm so glad that she's back. I don't have really much to add outside of the fact that I'm super happy, and based on my comments in like Twitch and Twitter, everybody's happy. No one's actually upset. I feel like people just miss playing a low yet. But I feel like no one's really missing a low power boss monster, and yeah, I'm glad that we got her back. That's all I gotta say.
I was shocked by this. I was like, there's no way they can seriously do this with a straight face. Like, what the hell are they doing? That's actually crazy. And I was even more shocked when I like played Angela Loki for like a bunch of games and like lost like 80 SP, and I was like, wait, this is like totally fine, it's beatable. And then, you know, I played it for even more games and won like 130. But like, you know what I mean, right? Like it's like it's not
just good, but not good, too overpowered.
Yes, like I was expecting like I'm gonna run people over, and no, you can compete with this. You still lose to Shuri Nimrod. Like you're still gonna get got by Phoenix Force. Like it's good, but it's not like game. It is, I would say, just under game changing, right? Like, it's important and impactful, but it doesn't change the fundamental dynamics of some of these matchups. Let's talk about our friend Glorious P, aka Loki. Yeah, so the easiest fit for Angela is in the Loki deck because it was already doing all this stuff. It was already a Hope Summers Elsa Kitty deck. It was already built around that. Angela goes in that, and you just kind of, for free, get something along the lines of a 2/8 in matchups against Shang-Chi and a 2/14 or something in the matchups where you're not getting Shang-Chi'd. It's just a lot of free points being added into a deck like that. And I think that if you look at numbers, Loki's actually been struggling for a little bit. If you look at the top end of ladder, that's probably not true. But if you look elsewhere, and I think I will say one thing for this version of Loki, it is complex, but I think it's the Loki that has the easiest, obvious routes to victory. Like, there's just a lot of baseline power in here, a lot of just strong stuff to be doing. And I am a little bit worried that the metagame may turn into, you know, your classic, did you Loki their Elsa? Because having 2 Elsas is really messed up. I'm a little bit worried about that potential eventuality. But right now, I mean, like, the deck is great. It was great for me. It was great for you. We both give it a, like, 2 thumbs up, I would say.
Yeah, honestly, this deck is the go-to just play Angela in this deck and nothing can go wrong deck, right? Because Loki's so-called game plan before the Angela change was already like a stats game plan of like Elsa, Hope, and then pumping out stuff, and then Lokiing to like play more stuff. I wanted to say something along the lines of like this just completely counters Thanos, but now it doesn't counter Thanos, it destroys Thanos. Like it just obliterates Thanos because Thanos got a lot worse, and then like this matchup just It just blows it out. Like I played against a few Thanoses. I played Loki on 4, and I just like, whoa, I'm like never gonna lose, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So I feel like Loki now just naturally stonks up because of naturally fits Angela, good against Thanos. Still, of course, has the usual problems of like losing to Wombo combo decks because you don't really want to steal their Wombo combo stuff. So it's a good deck, not overpowered. Yeah, the mirrors will be a bit horrendous because whoever gets the Elsa for 2 costs wins. But like other than that, I think this deck still has a relatively high skill ceiling in the sense that you need to actually know a matchup to do well with the Loki portion of the deck. But no, the trifecta once again, Angela, Elsa, Hope, these 3 ladies just completely fit perfectly in this deck and will just be a mainstay in many decks, I would say, in the next few weeks as long as these things stay the same.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy to me that they buffed Angela after you could no longer buy Hope Summers. Because it's like, if you're trying to make money, you should buff Angela when Hope Summers is the season pass card. That is, you should buff Angela then. And you know what you should not buff Angela during the week of? Is when people are looking at, should I buy Baron Zemo, a card that fills up your lanes? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, the timing on this is like, man, I really wish you guys, for your own sake, had front-loaded that a little bit. All right, Lambie. They mentioned Silky Smooth in the patch notes. I'm a little more down on it than you are, but I'm still thinking that it's a thing I'm going to see a lot of. I mean, I did see a lot of it, right? Silky Smooth. Where are you at with Silky Smooth? Talk me through the general thought process behind why the deck makes sense right now. And I guess, try to convince me that you don't get rolled by Loki.
Okay, so firstly, I'm not gonna convince you that it gets rolled by Loki because the thing is the same. If Loki plays Loki on 4, they will very likely play your whole deck in 1 turn.
Yeah.
Outside of the new addition for me, which is the Red Hawk, but I'll get into that soon. So I feel like Silky Smooth right now, firstly, stonks up because naturally it's an Angela, Hope, Kitty Pryde, Elsa deck, right? Like it just fits all the good like trifectas and early scalers. That's one. Secondly, it's also because Thanos went down. Like Thanos went down, and then this now has. I said it has a chance to play right now. It's not gonna get blown out by straight up Mockingbirds for 0 or like always Mind Stones into like big stuff. Like it has time to play right now. And in terms of like premium stats, early game scaling stats, this is one of those decks. Like the Loki Shell is one thing. This one is another one that scales really well with like early stats because you play Silks, you play Jeffs, you play Cravens that get bigger over time, and then now Angela as well. Lots of like early game hard carries. This deck cannot open bad. Like it's so rare that you have unplayable hands, which is like super important. There's so much snap powers with snap equity, not snap equity. There's so much like ability to snap with this deck because the early game is just superior. Like you never really not have an early game, which is very important. To be able to snap efficiently. What I like to talk about outside of the obvious Angela like buff is that this deck now with Hope Summers lets you play more 6 cost cards because I feel like previously if you want to run Kitty Pryde in this deck, which synergizes really well with like Angela or whatever, or like Silk, you couldn't really play much 6 cost cards because your very big Kitty over time doesn't get played if you want to play a 6, right? But the thing
Tell
is
me more
now,
about the very big kitty. No, I'm sorry.
the very big
I
kitty.
won't make the joke. I'm sorry. I apologize to the audience.
It's cool, man. It's cool. But now with Hope Summers, you get to play 7 energy on turn 6 very often, which is like 6+1. And your kitty, which is like 1/5 or 1/6, actually gets to be played alongside a big 6 drop, which my choice right now is Red Hawk, because Red Hawk to me is just big. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I never really wanted Doctor Doom because I would have a lot of stuff in a lot of places already.
Yes.
So yeah, okay. In general, I feel like this deck is just premium when it comes to stats right now. Does once again, same as Loki, lose to those wombo combo things, like tribunals, which is just crazy impossible to beat for this deck. Which is why maybe you can fit an enchantress in there. I think that's definitely something to explore. But other than that, I think I'm so glad this deck is back. I'm so glad they used Silky Smooth in the official patch notes. It's been about 7 months, but yes, it is back. It is not the best in the world or whatever, but it is very good.
Yeah, I think my worry with Silky Smooth is not that it's like bad or anything like that, but that it ends up being like the Sarah Tech of Hope Summers Elsa Kitty decks. And so it just ends up being like the 3rd best Hope Elsa Kitty deck. And you're just sitting here like, oh, I'm playing the 3rd best version of it. My matchup spread is broadly similar to the other 2, but I just lose the mirrors or the pseudo mirrors, right? You just lose to the 2 decks that are doing what you do better. And you're just ending up in a spot where it's like, there's nothing wrong with playing the deck. It's just you probably can do better if you have a full collection. And that's the only real worry I have for Silky Smooth. Everything that we've had on the sidebar here has been a pun so far, but we have no puns for Crossbones because if we made a pun for Crossbones, nobody would get the joke because nobody's played this card before, today. Crossbones is now a 4/10 competitive with Cull Obsidian, and I would like to say, kudos to Second Dinner for recognizing that, like, hey, we made a 4/10 that's like got a easier requirement. There's no reason why Crossbones can't be up here too. Have you seen any Crossbones decks doing things? I played against, I think, 2 Crossboneses today. Have you seen any of them?
Okay, so I haven't fully succeeded yet as of time of recording this, but I think I'm very close. I have this super tempo deck, which is like some of the Angela Hope stuff with Zabu, and then Crossbones, Cull Obsidian, and even Scar, because like it's like you just play all these big stuff on curve, and your mid-range deck can play a 2/11 on turn 6. Like, I'm close, but I'm not there yet, because I think my biggest problem is I couldn't figure out the perfect one-drop package for the Cull Obsidian, which is very mandatory in running like the 4/10s and then the 6/11. So I'm close, but I think Cull Obsidian and Crossbones seem to fit in the same deck, assuming it's not really Thanos, because like I think these cards, they really like benefit from early game initiative, early game like priority package, which is like, firstly, you get a lot of one cost cards to play the Cull. You get initiative early with your low cost big stuff to play the what's that called, the Crossbones. So I feel like these fit in the similar style of package. I guess also in general, I'm very happy that they didn't do it 4/9. I think 4/9 is actually scarier. They made 4/10, so it's actually counterable on curve, right? Like, if you play a 4/10, I can shank you on curve. So I think it's fair. So I like the change. Personally, I would prefer 4/9, but yeah, 4/10 just
Really?
lets you. Yeah, I prefer 4/9 actually.
I feel like if it's 4/9, like there are plenty of 4/9s you could play right now.
Yeah, it's
Play
one more
Rescue,
4/9.
Like, you could do it if
Yeah,
you
but
wanted.
Rescue is 4/9 with like, I would say, okay, both have downsides, but I feel like if you're going for like a priority kind of thing, like early game stats, you always get to play the Crossbones on curve for the most part. So I think 4/9 might be better. But yeah, no, now that it's 4/10, I guess we can go towards a Scar angle, which I'm trying to get to work. Maybe in the near future I will get it to work. But yeah, I like the card. I like the change.
I tend to think that 4/10 is stronger because you're only ever putting it in a deck that overloads Shang, right? Like, if you are using it right now, you are doing what you're talking about, which is like you're either putting it in like a Black Knight deck, or you're putting it in like a Tempo Zoo deck, which, by the way, those were the 2 Crossbones decks that I saw today. Was like someone doing like, that's the one drop package. You have Crossbones, you have Cull Obsidian, you have like Zoo stuff. You're like playing 4/10s in your Zoo deck, and it's pretty strong, right? You have a Zabu in there, so you got Khazar, Zabu, the other 4s, right? You can maybe that a Shang-Chi in there. I don't actually know. I didn't see it, but they could, right? And that sort of like Squirrel Girl especially lends itself towards like having priority. Maybe you put a Mr. Fantastic in there, something of that nature. That seems compelling to me because it lets you play like Scar, it lets you play like Mockingbird. Yeah, you get kind of crushed by Mobius, but Thanos was the big Mobius deck. I do think that 4/10 is a better card than 4/9, even though it gets shanked. I do think that.
I realized where I went wrong with this. I realized I wasn't thinking much of the Zoo angle, because if you introduce the Zoo angle as well, you can play 4/10s and you can play Mockingbird, right? There's like, yeah, I was playing it from like not a Zoo angle. I think the Zoo angle might be something that I could want to explore. But yeah, no, I still do think 4/9 is better though.
We got it.
I still do think 4/9 is better because I want to overload with 4/9s and make your Shang invalid, right? But I guess now you're invalidating the Shang by playing too many 10s. So yeah, I guess that's also something to look for.
We got Lambie to say he wanted to play Zoo. We did it. It
I'm interested.
I don't know what episode of this show it is, but I don't know, episode 100 or something. We got there. It only took.
I'm interested now.
It only took 80 episodes. Let's talk about the King, Elvis Presley. No, wait, Amal Farouk, the Shadow King. He's back, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary pals. He is back. This is a card that is absolutely great right now, and if everyone's playing Angela, this guy is reigning supreme.
Yo, Shadow King is like, okay, so we haven't seen, okay, personally I have not seen as much Shadow King yet, but it's like not yet. I feel like within the next 24 hours, or when this video has been released, you will see the rise of the king. Like, oh my gosh, this card is like 2 cost, and it just invalidates the entire Angela, which is gonna be everywhere, by the way. Like, people, I'm saying things like, alright, Angela's a 2/8, but in the face of Shadow King is a 2/0. And then like, there's a lot of other stuff as well, right? Like the Elsa stats that are gonna be really relevant as well. Shadow King is just 2 energy for too much efficiency. Like, I really think it's so good. It will be good. You don't even have to play in a dedicated tech deck. Like people are thinking, okay, Shadow King, so Sarah tech. You literally play Shadow King in
whatever.
anything. Like honestly, like it just works. Like it invalidates so much stats that your opponent has built up from like the early game till the late game. And it's very hard to play around because it's so easy for your opponent to just be like, oh, Shadow King plus Cow Obsidian, Shadow King plus Shang, Shadow King plus something else that's big. It's 2+4. It's so easy to do, and we all know the power of 4-cost cards, right? So yeah, I really think that like within the next like few days, Shadow King Stonks will go super through the roof. Probably not as popular as Shang still, because Shang is just Shang, but like close, very
Here's
close.
the interesting thing though, is this is a season that's already like very Luke Cage centric, right? US Agent is a card that gets countered by Luke Cage. Even White Widow sort of gets countered by Luke Cage. You turn off the ongoing at the very least, right? Like you have Valentina, which you run Luke Cage alongside, so you get the full value out of your card that you're getting off Valentina. Like there is a lot of just like passive Luke Cage buffs happening right now. And I am fairly compelled by the idea of Luke Cage being a good card right now just because of Shadow King. Which means if we think back to like how these decks were being built previously, are we going to start seeing, Shadow King Luke Cage decks? Like, is that going to be how this meta starts going?
I actually think you're right because, okay, so firstly, I'm not too happy about playing a 3-4, but if it's a 3-4 that very often stops your Angela from becoming 0, very often stops your Elsa stuff from being debuffed, I don't mind playing this 3-4 actually. Like, especially in decks that don't really mind playing whatever on curve, right? Like, for example, the Silky Smooth example, like, you don't really mind playing whatever on curve as long as you can play something on curve, right? So a 3-4 that protects you from losing like 10-ish stats in general, it's not a 3-4, it's like a 3-14. So I feel like very possible I could start exploring that as well, yeah.
Let's do a month in review. We're going to stack rank the following cards. Hope Summers, Mockingbird. I already forgot the other cards that came out last month. It's actually over for me. What were they, Lambie? Cannonball, War Machine, and there was one more.
Oh my gosh, I actually cannot remember the last one.
Yeah, it was the second one. The second one that came out in the month. We're leaving all this in.
I can't remember.
We're leaving all this in. I swear to God.
We are leaving all this in. Yes,
this is all gonna stay in here. You're gonna watch us have a brain fart.
Insignificant to the point that we forgot about it.
You're gonna watch us have a brain fart.
Cannonball was gonna be the most insignificant one. All right, but I will start by ranking.
No. We're gonna figure out what it is. What is it? There was another card that came out.
Oh no, I cannot remember.
We're gonna get it. I'm looking it up. Don't worry.
All right, let me think. Hope Summers, Mockingbird.
Yes.
War Machine.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, is it so insignificant that we cannot remember?
No, like it's a card that actually matters, I swear. But I'm blanking on it entirely.
Same, but like nothing beats Hope Summers, so let's just put Hope Summers at 1. Let's just put Hope Summers at 1.
Okay.
Then Mockingbird should be the second one because Hope Summers is number 1 simply because she's good in more decks than Mockingbird is. Mockingbird was insane in Thanos, but in everywhere else she was like fair. So I'm gonna go with Hope Summers first.
Oh my god, it was Pixie.
You see, it's insignificant. Okay. So Hope Summers number 1, Mockingbird number 2. What's the other one? War Machine, right? War Machine is number 3, I would believe. And then what's the other one again?
Cannonball and Pixie.
Cannonball and Pixie, yes, in that order, correct.
Okay, I think that's not how I have it. I have Cannonball above War Machine. I think Cannonball's good. I have Hope Summers. Here's the thing. I think Mockingbird's actually a better card than Hope Summers. Like,
explain.
Mockingbird is the card that has defined Thanos. It has kept Thanos afloat through all of this. And I expect Hope Summers to be more relevant moving forward. We just got that Angela thing. I get it. But putting them up next to each other in their opening month, we're talking about review, right? Mockingbird was a better card last month. It was.
Okay, fine. Yeah, fine.
Mockingbird is 1. Hope Summers is 2. And this is not looking forward. Looking forward, I would expect it to be Hope, then Mockingbird. Totally. I'm with you. Cannonball, I think, is an easy 3. I think the War Machine decks are just not good. War Machine is 4, Pixie is 5. That is where I'm at with this. That is my month in review. I
like how we totally forgot about Pixie because we were right. I mean, she didn't do anything. She didn't do anything. And the funny thing is, it's not that she didn't do anything just cause Mobius, by the way. People might be thinking like, oh, because Mobius is in the meta. She's not doing anything because she's inconsistent, even when you don't see the Mobius, right? So like I've tried multiple Pixie decks and they've all ended in utter failure. But yeah, so War Machine and Cannonball is kind of interesting. I know what you mean with the Cannonball. Like you can actually see him being played in like sometimes Thanos in the past, sometimes in like curve decks. But why I ran War Machine
like Clog Professor X stuff. It's like those decks are kind of good, right? Like the high Evo deck where it's using Hope and Cannonball as like your alternate, like you have like your alternate She-Not plan where you have like if everything else goes wrong, you can skip on 5 and go Cannonball and She-Hulk. And
I've never seen Cannonball She-Hulk.
Did you actually know that was the highest win rate deck in top 10% Infinite last month?
What?
Yeah, it's an Owl God deck. Do you remember Owl God?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an Owl God cook.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't play against a single Cannonball She-Hulk deck. Okay, wait.
It was good. Like I played it. I did a video on it. I was like, this is like an actual deck.
Look back at
I'm much higher on Cannonball than War Machine. I've won more games with Cannonball decks than War Machine decks for sure. And I've definitely played more War Machine decks.
I play more War Machine decks as well. True.
Tell me about everyone's favorite Red Hulk.
Oh my gosh, this card. I love it. Like, okay, so I know you wanted to ask me this. You asked me this just now, and I think I'm going to answer it.
I'll ask you again.
Okay, ask me again. Yes, ask me again.
Convince me this card is that much better than running Magneto. And tell me how much better it is.
Okay, so Magneto is a 6/12, yes, alright, but obviously we don't run it just because it's a 6/12, right? Magneto has the ability to clock your opponents in ways that no other card can really clock your opponent right now. So I do value Magneto very, very, very highly as a card. I think it's a tier S card, honestly. But Red Hulk to me is also a tier S card. So firstly, Red Hulk is everybody's blob. Like you don't blob in anything other than Thanos.
The people's
but you can Red
blob.
Hulk. Yeah, the people's blob.
The people's
yes.
blob. Yes.
You can Red Hulk in every deck because firstly, let me just say this. In our previous videos or one of them, I did mention that Red Hulk could probably be, this is before it got launched, a 615, 619 on average. After testing, my Red Hulks are very often 623s. Like, the moment you open with Red Hulk, 623 is not hard to come by. And like, 623 is literal solo a location potential. 612 is not. Because the thing about 612 Magneto is that when you play Magneto on a location, there's a chance that you lose that location or you need to supplement it with additional things, right? So that there is that downside. For Red Hulk, of course, the downside is that it gets shanked. That's why you don't play it before turn 6. But anyway, I think Red Hulk is so honestly like often 619, 623. 627 is a stretch, so let's not go there. But like 619, 623, that it has such insane solo allocation potential. And because, okay, it's supposed to be a downside whereby your opponent can see the card in your hand and they don't stay. But like to me, I realized that a lot of the time, just having this Red Hulk in my hand and like me knowing that I can't win because they can play multiple cards, but they will still retreat because they cannot beat the Red Hulk in your hand, and I think that's like an upside that I didn't realize was that much of an upside. So I am actually very, very glad that I started testing with this card a lot. And yeah, I do think that in stats-based decks, it's better than Magneto.
I am a little bit lower on it than you in the sense of like, I haven't really felt compelled to play it. So, like, this is, like, a very uninformed opinion. Of all the opinions I've given here, this is my least informed. But, like, I've played against it a lot, and I've just been like, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't feel super fucked up to me the way Blob does, right? It's not, it doesn't feel like that. It's just like, oh, Red Hulk, that's fine, sure, whatever. I'll tell you what the biggest, most interesting thing about Red Hulk is to me, is, like, if it reveals on turn 1, you just, like, it feels so psychologically crushing. Because you're you're thinking about like, oh, I'm gonna play 3 power next turn, and you just see like 15 scroll across your screen, and you're like, that's so many points. Like it feels so bad. I also do think that like the actual optimal use of Red Hulk, I don't mean like necessarily optimal, but I think this will become a common part of its play pattern, is they know you have the Red Hulk, so you're doing something else. Like, forcing your opponent to be like, oh, shit, I have to play around this Red Hulk, and then you figuring out, all right, how exactly are they going to play around this Red Hulk? What does playing around a Red Hulk look like? How can I play to beat that? It's sort of like, it doesn't necessarily put them always on level 1, where, like, you're on level 0 is the Red Hulk, and they have to be on level 1 to beat the Red Hulk. And I think that actually is kind of important, right? Like, being able to dictate to your opponent what they have to play around and then maintaining the ability to play around that play is relevant in high-level games.
Yeah, it's so cool, right? Because like you said, the moment they know you have a Red Hawk in hand, their final turn, like they generally just think, how do I beat 619? And then when they think of trying to beat 619, you just know that the fact if they choose to stay, they have beaten your 619.
Yes.
Right? Which means your play will be the one that sort of like plays around the play that beats your 619.
Yep.
You get where I'm going with this?
Yes.
So you expect them to play like a 4-3 or Shank. So instead, why not just play your Vision, which is 5-8, doesn't get Shank, that kind of thing. So I like that aspect of this card. So yeah, guys, if you are wondering if I think you should buy Red Hawk, just let go of the 6,000. Buy it.
I think my thing is, I think he's really good, but I feel like the bar for being 6,000 is so high. But if the card you're describing is the card he probably is worth it, yeah. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for making it to the end of that video. I've been KMBest. He's Lambie Series. Together we're 8 cubes and no lenses today. Neither of us wearing glasses. All right, we've decided to look pretty today. As always, Lambie, take us out.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. If you like what you just saw, do leave a comment, do subscribe, and we will see you on the next one on KM's channel. Bye-bye.